Hey everybody, what's up? It is Rob Dukes. Welcome to another episode of Put Up Your Dukes podcast. All right, it's been a fucking week, right? Heartbreaking week. My fucking Rangers lost in the first round to the fucking shitbag Devils. I was just going up in the series 2-0. You have like this saying when you love a sporting team, you know, and I love car racing, you know, MotoGP and hockey. And hockey's my number one. And I love the New York Rangers. They lost. They were up 2-0 in the series, and then they lost 3, and then they won game 6, and all the games they won, they were like 5-1, and then they get blown out and shut out in the last game. And it was just fucking heartbreaking. But such is sports, man. It's heartbreaking. So I'm watching all the games. I don't really give a fuck at this point. I only like the New York Raiders. I don't like anyone else. I kind of root for the Coyotes because I live here, but if they ever play the Raiders, they can lick my balls. So, Generation Kill news. We possibly got this tour for like a month in September. I wish I could say something, but I can't. But it'll be in the United States. It'll be everywhere. We're doing like, you know, the whole United States, and with a really cool old school band that's been around forever, and we're gonna go out with them, and I'm really hoping that all comes through. That'll be a lot of fun. So me and the boys, we've been talking, and I'm gonna fly out there and rehearse, but right after the Milwaukee Metal Fest, I might go directly to New York. I might just I then go there for like a week and work on some music. You know, and just keep the chops up. They've been they rehearse like every week. They just, you know, so, and I fly back and jump in and try to remember the lyrics, which I can never do. Let's talk about that for a second. I know that a lot of bands use teleprompters, and I use we call it a ghetto prompter. It's just the words written on paper and they're taped to the monitor. And I only really ingested them when it was like the repetition of night after night after night after night. And when you don't do it for a few months, for some reason, even though they're my own lyrics, they just escape me. I might have talked about this before, but you know, it's just one of those things, man. And I'm thinking about getting a teleprompter so I don't have to worry about it so much. And it's not. So here's what happens. It's not like you don't know any of the words. That's not the case. The case is sometimes you come to a part and your brain just goes blank, and you're right fucking there, and you're holy shit. And it happens from time to time. So with a teleprompter, you don't have to worry about it. I know pretty much every band in the world. I know all the major bands are using them, especially the bands that have been around for a long time. Even Rush was using them, and I know I have sat and talked to Rob Halford about it, and it's not that, as a singer, we don't give a fuck. It's just that we just don't retain it, and I don't understand why. I wonder if it's because I'm getting older, but even when I was younger, I couldn't remember them. I've always had cheat sheets. I've always had helpers. But anyway, I remember after 2 weeks of touring, I used them less and less and less. And then by the end, I wasn't using them at all. But even then, sometimes, like, I remember singing Blacklist one time, and I couldn't remember the fucking chorus. I mean, can you fucking believe it? It's like 6 words. You know what I mean? And my brain just boop, and I didn't remember any of them. And I remember walking off and just laughing about it. I go, Jesus Christ, man. I did the whole microphone's broken thing, and yeah, and the crowd sang it anyway. So and then once they sang, I was like, oh yeah, and then but at first I couldn't fucking remember. Milwaukee Metal Fest. Looks like I don't know who I'm playing with. I'm hoping this episode, I'm hoping it alludes to I got 2 guests today. And they're short. They're like 20-minute interviews. So I did 2, and I can put them into one, and then I'll give you a little heads up. One is Billy from Biohazard. Great dude. It was a little weird because he was walking around. He kind of had to do something, so we kind of got caught up. And then, but it was a good interview, man. We talked about a lot of different stuff, and like a lot of our influences, a lot of his influences and shit like that. And then I did a quick one with Mr. Paul Bostaph, my former drummer from the Shovel-Headed Kill Machine album and tour. And I had a lot of good times with Paul, man. We had a lot of, we were road dogs in the first year, and we spent a lot of time on the bus, a lot of time, hanging out, and he told some great stories, from that time. And when you get to the interview, you'll see I asked him one question, and he told this great story, and I remember when it happened, man. It was fucking awesome, and it was otherwise, all right. So I said that I was gonna start reading the news, and I said that I was gonna do that, and I didn't. I didn't read the news. I didn't follow the news. The only thing I did see was everyone's mad at Bud Light because they put a rainbow on the can or something, or they had a trans person have something to do with them. I mean, the world is so silly. I mean, I've always, man, like, I don't care what anyone does. I really don't. And, unless it affects my life personally, which I don't drink, so I don't give a fuck about Bud Light or Bud or any of that shit. So I'm not really the person that's I'm not conflicted at all, but I wouldn't give a fuck if a trans person was advertising for, an old Chevy Chevelle or Camaro or, an old Volkswagen or something. Why would I give a fuck? I mean, I'm not afraid of it in any way. It doesn't bother me in any way, shape, or form. People are fucking lame. You know what I mean? That's just what it comes out of. And it's silly and weird this whole time, where it used to be, you only knew the opinions of people you actually knew, right? And now you get these opinions from all these fucking people who have no right giving their opinions. Because who gives a fuck? Who the fuck are you? You know what I mean? Like, what have you done in your life, like, to even offer up an opinion on anything? So, anyway, that kind of, I'm never offended by much, but I think the nuances of the world, there's so many horrible things going on. I was talking to last night. Me and Melody were having this conversation about when they closed down all the nut houses, where they house all the insane, and they closed them across the country. I think it was Ronald Reagan came in and they gutted the program, and they really just let all these people out on the streets. And I remember this. I used to live in this town called Nyack, New York. It's about 15 miles north of Manhattan. It's right on the Hudson River. And there used to be this guy who was like this jack dude, and I lived there for like 10 years, and in this it was a little teeny town. It's probably 2 city blocks long, and it has about 10 bars and a Starbucks and a music store and a couple all these little antique shops and hair places and pizza places to a couple pizza places, but it was mostly bars, and that was. But I was a bartender in this town. I lived in this town, and I spent a lot of time there. And no matter where I was during the day, at any given time in the day, this jack dude would be running. And I'm not talking he would just jogging down the street. He was running at full fucking speed, and you would see him multiple times a day. And then I found out that he had schizophrenia, and he lived in this house that housed a lot of these people that were let go of this place called Letchworth Village, which was a multi buildings, and it had the criminally insane, it had the regular insane, and it had, it had young and old, and they closed it down, and it just became like this creepy place to go and drive through, and anyway, there's this crazy movie called The Endless, and me and Mel watched it, and it's kind of like Skinwalker Ranch stuff. It's very weird, and it was a cool movie. I doubted it. It's a independent film, kind of not low budget, but low budget enough. But it was a cool story, and it had some creepy moments to it that were really cool. If you guys have seen Wind River, which is a great fucking movie, the bad guy from Wind River is in it. He's in this movie, and he's the best character in the whole fucking movie. It's fucking great. And that's it, man. So listen, enjoy my conversation with Billy. Enjoy my conversation with Paul, the real quick. And then on the next one, I got Brian from Shadows Fall. It's going to drop in a couple days. I'll do another intro, probably from a different spot instead of home. I'll probably do it maybe I'll do it from work, or maybe I'll do it when I'm welding on a car, and I'll kind of pan and show you some shit that I'm doing. All right. Listen to Generation Kill. Listen to Exodus. And listen to fucking Slayer. All right.
Let me start here. Everybody, this is Billy from Biohazard Banner. And listen, man, I've been a fan since the very beginning. You know what I mean? I was a kid in New York, Cro-Mags kid, and fucking, I loved everything. But when you guys came on the scene, it was fucking awesome. I was a huge fan of the how you guys would have these crazy time changes in the middle of a song. You'd be fucking chugging along and stop, and then go into a completely. That was so cool for me, because it was something kind of new, and you guys actually did guitar solos in your songs, because most hardcore bands didn't. They just chugged along, and solos were kind of like a metal thing, but you guys did a little bit of both, man, and it was very cool. And you're back. You're back together. Have you played any shows since reforming?
Nope.
This time?
Milwaukee Metal Fest is the first show.
Definitely the first show.
May 26th. And what a bill.
Yeah. I'm stoked that I'm going to be there. I'm going to be doing my podcast live from there, and I'm going to be talking to a bunch of people. But I'm just stoked that I get to go see you guys on Friday night. And, it's going to be fucking cool.
That's the first.
The last time I saw you was with, it was in New York with, you opened for Slayer and Machine Head. Machine Head opened the show. You were in the middle. I saw you guys with, Machine Head and Slayer. And that was what an awesome show that was. Yeah.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
A lot of good laughs, good memories from that one.
Yeah. So what have you been up to since, man? I mean, just, I know
well, you're giving me props with the Power Flow shirt, so that with Black Flies.
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah.
I love Black Flies, man. I'm wearing everything. I only wear Black Flies, man. Sunglasses. They make my regular glasses for me. Black Flies are the shit. And, And yeah, they did a collab with Sullen. They've done a lot of cool collabs. So they did one with you guys.
Powerful. I'm hoping to do one with Biohazard.
Oh, cool, man. Right on, man.
Yep.
Yeah, I just went down to their to the plant down in Orange County.
Yep.
And hung out with Mo, and we just yeah, he just showed me the whole place, how they do everything, how it's all run. Yeah, big fan of those guys. I've been a fan of those guys since '93, when I was running around with Pennywise and TSOL and all those Southern California punk rock bands. Have you started? Are you making new music?
Yeah, you know me, dude. I talk about things that I did, not things I'm gonna do. But I would bet the mortgage that it'll happen.
Okay, I'm hoping, man. I mean,
I'll bet the house. Just put the band back together. First show is Milwaukee Metal Fest with Anthrax, Lamb of God, Suicidal, Dark Angel, Violence. So many phenomenally awesome bands. It's if I wasn't playing, I would be going anyways. But then the second two shows, we played New York June 16th, sold out at Urban Plaza. Then we added a second show June 18th, which is a killer bill. Sheer Terror, Sworn Enemy, Sub-Zero, Fury of 5, and Incendiary Device. That's on June 18th at Urban Plaza. And then we head to Europe for a few shows, few spot shows in the summer, and Blue Ridge will play in September.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's gonna be fun.
Yeah, I'm thinking. I love Sub-Zero. Fucking Lou's fucking awesome. When I was in Exodus, we brought out Sub-Zero and Full Blown Chaos, and we're trying to try not to make like tours where it was all the same type bands bringing out other bands, and we brought out.
We did. I worked with Full Blown. I did Kings Never. No, I did Heavy the Crown. It was Heavy Lies the Crown. I did.
Mm-hmm. I'm stoked that all the original members are back. You guys are gonna go do this thing. When was the last time you guys all played together?
2012.
2012
or 2000, something like that. The last show we played together, we played. I was in Blood for Blood, and I played a set with Blood for Blood in outside of Boston at the New England Metal Fest, and then I jumped on stage right after it played a set with Biohazard, and that was the last OG lineup of Biohazard.
All right.
Blood for Blood killed Biohazard in 2012.
Oh,
and then we continued. Evan had some shit that he was dealing with. Split with him and continued with Scott on bass. Scott was from a band called Spud Monsters, and we did pretty well. We had a good time, but then it kind of just fell apart, and then I started up Power Flow and Billy Bio, and that's what I've been doing since, until they dragged me back in.
Yeah. So can we talk about like growing up in New York, and like what were your influences before you entered Biohazard? Because you guys were like one of the originals. Like there were a handful of bands, Knox in Front and then Cro-Mags, and you guys kind of were part of all of that. How did you start out, and how did you end up in that whole scene back then?
So I was a CBGB's hardcore skinhead. I lived and loved going to matinees there or Pyramid Club on the Lower East Side. Caused a lot of trouble. I only liked punk rock and hardcore. That's it. I hated everything else.
Right.
A punk rock friend of mine gave me a cassette tape of Cryptic Death, and on the flip side of it, you remember the old cassette players? If it played one side, it would automatically flip and play the other side.
Yeah.
Side of cassette was this band, never heard of. All it had was like a pentagram on the tape, and I listened to it. I never listened to it, but I was at work and it flipped over, and it starts off in this high screamy voice comes in, and I was like, oh, this is fucking metal. And I'm like, and I gave it a second before I could turn it off. It went from a "Arr," and it went to this growl that grabbed me by the throat, bro, and it never let go. It was Slayer, Rain and Blood. No,
Yeah.
Hellways.
Hello.
And what song is it that starts with a high scream?
Well, Angel of Death starts out with the high scream. That's on Rain and Blood, but shown on I think it's and Hell Awaits has that long chugging, but then it goes into a scream.
I think
You're right.
it was Rain and Blood. I think so.
Okay.
It was maybe late 80s. I don't know when.
Well, he would sell 86, something like that. Yeah.
And I was like, what the fuck? So, but it wasn't until, and then I found, I love bands like Crumbsuckers, SOD and MOD, and like the things that were a little bit more metal, even Ludacris. So I started to get more towards bands that were metal, but had roots in the scene that I love so much and felt a big part of, such a big part of.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until Biohazard that they turned me on more to like classic metal, from Priest to Maiden, and who I knew, but I was in this like, elitist hardcore punk rock thing.
Right.
Not punk rock. Understand something that I believed in, I didn't like.
Yeah.
Then really deep into Sabbath. So that was pretty much my influences. I loved like a lot of early Gothic stuff also. So like bands like, Bauhaus and Joy Division, Soothing the Banshees, Cure, and stuff like that. In addition to like bands like even Crass.
Right.
So that was all my early influences. But if I spin the clock before that, my father's record collection, I remember a few different records that stuck out. He had Rolling Stones, like Rocks or something. I can't remember. It was
Rocks. Yeah.
Yeah. It was like a big forced album record. Led Zeppelin, when Led Zeppelin 2, whatever Levy Breaks is on.
Yeah. Oh, that was
Yes,
4. That was yeah. Okay.
Yes, Close to the Edge, and Emerson, Lake and Palmer Pictures That Expedition, and then a Queen record, and what else was that? Those were like little kid shit. Like that's when the parents would leave.
Yeah.
My mom and dad was a weird kid, but whenever they were together, when they would go out, my brothers and I would crank that shit up. Then I got into Kiss, and then Kiss was the first like real band that I felt like it was mine. And then so all those influences bubbled back into me after I went through like the only punk rock hardcore phase of my life. So it's like once I grew out of that, and I grew out of it. Once I accepted that it was okay for me to like something else that wasn't hardcore punk rock, my musical palette, everything else kind of seeped back in, and I got turned on to all this other new music that I was just like, holy fuck, I was missing out on some great shit by being
Well, me and you, we were basically along the same path. That was exactly how it was for me. When I remember I heard The Clash for the first time, and that was like that just changed everything. That was like the first thing I heard on my own. Everything before that was given me by my parents or my uncle, or so how old were you when you picked up the guitar?
On a serious note, not until I don't know, maybe 10, and that was a buddy of mine. Sorry, dude, I think I parked it by his drums. So him and I would jam on Kiss songs. We were both big Kiss fans, and it was with him that father took us to see our first show, which was Van Halen and April Wine, and so that was first. Yeah, and then when I got into like punk rock and hardcore, I was a skater, and I hated the world and hated society and hated the establishment, and rebelled against it. Joined a punk rock band, and told them if I could join your band, I'll get a guitar and I'll teach myself how to play. And they accepted it. They let me in who turned me on to bands like Flipper and Oxnard, the whole Oxnard hardcore scene, gave me his guitar. And that was the beginning of my career as a guitarist.
All right. Right on. Who's your favorite guitarist of all time?
That's hard to pull one. I'm a big Jimmy Page, Eric Clapton, Jimi Hendrix, but then you put in like Brian Baker from Minor Threat, or I loved Harley even though he's a bass player from Cro-Mags. Ace Frehley. It's just too many to say, dude. I can't.
Yeah.
I can't just pull one out. And also, I'm not a ripper lead player. I play lead, but it's especially on the new Powerful record. I play a lot of lead, but in Biohazard, it was always Bobby's thing. Steve Ray Vaughan too.
Yeah,
Bobby turned me on to a lot of Steve Ray Vaughan. But Maiden, the Tipton. So there's a lot.
Yeah, I remember when I first heard, I just growing up and listening to, regularly, the first hardcore thing I heard was the Cro-Mags, and that the way it was the riffing, man. It was the way they put they could change speed on a dime and then come back to it, and it had something else that other music didn't have, and that's what kind of attracted me to it. But I still love the Suicidal did it a lot too. They had a lot of changes, and you guys were always awesome for that, and part of the old, like I remember we opened up for Madball on a festival, and they were a lot like that too. They were along the same lines of a lot of time changes, a lot of and it was always just so much fun, man. Everybody was out just having fun, and that was the crux of hardcore. It was so punk rock, but it was just a fucking really good time, and that's what I associate.
That's why we do it. That's why we do it. We don't do it for the money. If it ain't none, we do it for the real reason.
Mm-hmm. And so did you guys ever talk about the lyrics, about how like you guys are sing a lot about like sticking together, friends and family, and brotherhood, and you guys, did you talk about the lyrics before they were written, or did you guys all,
like, Biohazard was never a pre-planned band,
right?
It could be anything. Like we just were jamming over the weekend, and we played "Scarred for Life," which is a song I wrote about losing my mother as a little kid. So it always, the songs always came from experiences that I went through, or anybody who else brought the song in. What we would do sometimes, I remember, I just told the story, and it's something we're working on, but the song I wrote called Carjacker, I would demo all my music and I would bring the songs finished to the guys. So here's my idea, and the idea was that I could finish my idea before somebody had a chance to add their 2 cents in, which is cool. I like how Bio has some of the parts, all the gears coming together to make one machine. But as a writer, I like to see my vision complete before it changes, So I brought this song called Carjacker, and I wrote it on a 7-string, recorded on my little Tascam, whatever I was using at the time, and then brought it in. And that song is a song called Tales from the Hard Side.
Yeah.
The lyrics and used it on demo, brought it in, we jammed on some riffs. That song I wrote out of a conversation with Bobby. Bobby said to me, "Hey man, most of the songs that you write they're more chromatic. They don't fit into like a real key." And he goes, and I studied piano since I was 6. So he goes, "I know you know theory, but why are you doing that? It's really hard for me to play lead over your music." And I said, because that's what I like. I said, I don't want to keep conform to a key. I said there's a certain kind of sound that, you know, with that. So we had this conversation, and he said, can you kind of like at least write some bed leads or some bed riffs that I could play lead over and not struggle so much because you're so chromatic. And I'm like, yeah, sure. How about harmonic minor? He goes, yeah. So Punishment also came out of that conversation because a lot of it's based around harmonic minor, and it gave him something to paint over, which he did I brought him, like, what do you think about this riff? He goes, oh, that's all harmonic minor. It's like, cool. You like it? He goes, yeah, I can just check this out. And he starts jamming on something, and he came up with the lead melody around those riffs. And I was like, fucking awesome. So there was no formula. There was no, we all just brought in ideas and went with it. A lot of times, you know, sometimes they stayed the same. Sometimes we would jam on something and something better would come out of it. So we didn't worry about trying to mold it. We just let everything happen. It was a natural progression, and we still are like that. I'm way more controlled not in a bad way, but I don't like input. I don't need it. I know what I like. I know what I want to express, and I do it. I'm lucky enough I put all my money into collecting gear and opening a studio. So I just sit there, and that's how I created Billy Bio or Power Flow. And I just constantly write, create music, and some of it sticks, some of it doesn't. And when I'm dead and gone, my wife knows where the hard drive is of the ones that didn't. Some people will be like, yeah, I know that's why he didn't release it. And some people will be like, wow, he should have released it. It's really good.
Do you remember who played the piano on Scarred for Life? Which, by the way, is one of my favorite songs you guys ever did. Because I got a huge scar on my face, and when I heard that song, man, I connected with it because of that. You know what I mean? So,
that's all me. That's all the.
You did all the piano? No shit, dude. That was a fucking beautiful piece of music, man. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I was just playing that. I transcribed it to guitar the other day and was showing Bobby. I didn't arpeggio aren't something that I was into transcribing, but the main part of the song, I was like, maybe if we play this song, we'll do like a guitar version of it instead of piano.
Right. Nice.
Like,
yeah.
Like, no, man, you got to bring out the fucking piano. It's awesome. I'm like, no. We did a couple shows, and it's not my thing. Not with Biohazard. My energy is too up there for Biohazard, and playing piano for me, it's completely opposite. And I have to be. I don't have to be, but it doesn't work for me. It's like doing. You can't go from 0 to 60, and then back to 0 again.
Yeah. I get it, man. I get it. Yeah, you guys are fucking crazy on stage. It's fun. It's such a fun show to watch. It's it's such a good fucking time. So when you were growing up with in the pit, did you get out there and like go into like an AF show or Chromatic show? You were out in the pit, and then all of a sudden, when you found yourself on stage, was it did you quit going to shows and quit getting in the pit, or did you always have that part of you? It's still part of you?
I always had that part of me, and that was a big thing about the early days of Biohazard. When we were on stage, we were in the pit. Now we're a little older. When we're not on stage, we're also, like, when things change a lot, like some really violent phases with, I saw dudes, slice people with, razor blades in their knuckles and slicing up people's backs.
Yeah.
I seen, some crazy shit. It got real bad. Someone who shall remain nameless, when somebody brought a gun into and started shooting up, just shot it off into CBGBs once. So there was a lot of crazy shit going down. And it seemed like the Biohazard shows were always like the meeting place for all the different factions to settle their beef. which sucked. And it culminated at one of our shows for Urban Discipline at the Marquee, and a friend of ours, it was like a retaliation thing, got stabbed with a giant Rambo knife and gutted like a deer in front of the show, and he's survived, but fucking nightmare. So as things changed, we moved towards making the music that made people move and fight, dance, whatever. More than being involved in that stuff. But it's moves you the same. You know what I'm saying? And now at this juncture in my life, I still enjoy it, still love it, still go to shows, and I just wish I had more time to do. It's a juggle when you got responsibilities and kids and a wife who loves metal, but I don't get to go to as many shows as I want to go to. Just say
As I've gotten older, I still love going to shows. But my palate is very thick. I mean, I have a real eclectic taste in music. One of my favorite bands is Clutch. They bring like a bluesy rock vibe, and I like going to the show because it's fucking mellow. There's no pit. It's kind of, you could go there and enjoy it. But I also went to Agnostic Front and Prong, and fucking, I didn't get in the pit because I'm too fucking old, but fucking I was up in the balcony and just enjoying the show because Roger lives here, and we're both car guys. So me and Roger always, we'd hook up at car shows all the time. And we went and saw, me and Roger went to see Lars Fredriksson had a band called the Oldford Casuals, and me and Roger went to see that together. And so I go to shows out here once in a while, like little small club shows. And but as you get older, man, it's tough to get punched in the face and go to, and it hurts for more time than it used to. It's good, man. Listen, I'm gonna see you at Milwaukee Metal Fest. We'll sit down, we'll talk a little more. And, I'm really looking forward to seeing Biohazard for the first time in a lot of years. And I wish you all the luck, and I wish you, all the success that you guys deserve, because you're one of the great bands out there. And, brother. And good luck, man. And I'll see you on May 20, 26, 27, 28. So I'll see you on the 26th on Friday.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
All right, man. Have a good one. Peace, dude.
How you doing these days?
You still have you been still doing the Baja Bugs?
Yeah, well, actually, I moved over to Porsche, and I was doing Porsche for about a year, and now I'm at a hot rod shop. So I'm doing like everything across the board. The thing I'm doing right now is this Bronco full Rusto.
Nice.
So yeah, and a couple other new things, things. You got a guy converted like an old bread truck into a fucking hot rod. So, and like a party van kind of thing. So that was kind of cool too. But yeah, man, just sticking with it. I'm actually building a bug at home, a 68. So, yeah, making a hot rod out of it. Something cool. Yeah.
Nice, man.
Yeah, I finished my Corvette.
Oh, well,
Finished that, and I sold that, and moving on, something else.
we gotta before Amy and I actually bought a place. We had a 77 Corvette.
Okay.
So yeah, we liked it, but it was like I didn't realize how tight it was for me to fit in there. I have a Giants baseball hat, right? It's got the orange rim. It's old school. It's got the orange rim and the orange dot on top.
Yeah.
I take my hat off, put it on the hat rack at home, and I'd be like, why the fuck is there black shit on the orange dot on top of my hat? Well, it turns out that I didn't realize it, but that orange dot was just barely touching the vinyl panel on top.
Right.
Rub it. Every time I hit a bump, I guess I was inadvertently hitting the T-top, But
yeah, I always take those out anyway, man. I like to drive without them.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
You know what's cool about the 77 is it's the last year of the flat window, right? So they make this kit. They make this kit that you can actually remove it and it slides underneath on the top of the trunk and the rear where the gas tank is. It just like it kind of does like a little pop out and it slides. They make like a kit that you can install. And yeah, I did that to mine because it was like I loved having the air go through the car. Yeah, anyway, man. So yeah.
that's cool, man.
Yeah. So how's I'm looking forward to playing with you at the Milwaukee Metal Fest. I don't know if we're gonna actually play together, but I know we're gonna be hanging around the same night having a blast. So
Yeah, that's I haven't played live with anybody since the end of 2019.
yeah.
I haven't done any. I haven't been any, like the very last Slayer tour was the last time I played live.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's gonna be a trip to get back out there again.
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully. I don't know how Jamie's got the roster and everything, worked out, but I know there was a couple songs you wanted to do. I don't know which ones you decided on, or if he's got you sorted out or whatever that is. So, let me know what it is. At least, in case maybe if I don't know how he's got it configured, but I think he wants me to go up last. So I don't know how he's got everybody else. It's kind of out of my hands in terms of structuring of the show.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, but I think you said I Am Abomination was one of them.
I picked. I said I Am Abomination because it was one of the easier of the Exodus songs.
Everybody but the drummer.
Everybody but the drummer. Well, they wanted to do Death Amphetamine, and I was like, "You guys are out of your minds. There's no way you're pulling that off." Yeah,
Amphetamine's not. Yeah, that one's even. It's a good one. Great.
it's a great song. Just it's gonna be hard to pull off. So I was like, "Let's go with something a little easier." Yeah, and they put everything's on the drummer, but we're gonna it'll be fun, dude. It's like it's all for fun. If people fuck up, it doesn't matter. It's not, you know what I mean? But it's gonna be. Are you hanging? Are you just staying for that night and heading out Saturday, or are you gonna hang out for a couple shows?
I'll be there. I think I'm staying every night, and then I might be leaving last night.
Okay.
Cool.
All right, me too, man. I'm gonna be. I think I'm getting there Wednesday, and then I'm leaving out on Monday. So it'll be fun, man. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of people I haven't seen in years. Yourself. I mean, we I haven't seen you since since the Bay Area thing. Right?
Well, independent was it?
Yeah.
Independent or whatever the hell it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while. Yeah, even I messed up Death Amphetamine that night. So
Don't worry, everybody does, dude. It's
I remember Lee and Gary looking at me because there's a part where it's the fast part and it's in the lead section and there's that staccato thing and it goes back and
yeah.
I kept coming out of the guitar riff early. I just wasn't thinking about the riff. And Gary and Lee, the first time I did, they're like,
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm just gonna go with it, man. Like fucking, but yeah, that was a blast.
Yeah, that was fun. So you married?
Yeah. I live up in Grass Valley area, Northern California. That's it's like north of Sacramento.
All right.
I'm pretty close to Holt. But Gary's up in
What have you been listening to lately? What's your personal playlist?
my personal Jesus Christ. Well, I've kind of, as of lately, I got involved with 3 recording projects. So through my website, over time, I've thrown it out there that I'll do recordings for people if they want me to. The people will send me stuff, and sometimes not to knock anybody, sometimes the material they're giving me just isn't stuff I'm interested in doing. But I've had 3 projects as of lately where people hit me up and I was like, wow, this is really fucking good. So, So I kind of just been listening to that, you know, because it's like, it's kind of a challenge. I'm kind of challenging myself. I'm like, okay, how many records can I do in 1 year? You know, which is a challenge because it's like I've only been with a band, and then I'll do a record and go on tour. And then if I do another record, which didn't happen with Exodus or with Testament, but like with Slayer, it's been like every 5 years, right? Like, well, then you go on tour, and you start working on the material, then it comes out. So for the first time, I think in my life, I'm like, you know what? How many records can I do in a year? So I've kind of been listening to, me and my girl, like we hang out, and so I listen to a lot of what she listens to too. So like she loves gangster rap, so I've been listening to a lot of that on the outside of creative things, and just other in terms of doing albums with people, current projects, but yeah, just like gangster rap, just stuff I normally wouldn't listen to, and just really kind of, it's really interesting. Like over time, like how can this actually affect, like when I sit down behind a drum set, will it affect like when I come into the rehearsal studio, like my own little space, and I practice? Normally, like I'll just practice, what I know, right? Or what I'm trying to maybe learn. But every once in a while, external sources of music, if you listen to them long enough, they kind of have this weird, like they can trickle in and you won't even know it kind of thing. And with some of the stuff I've been listening to, it's interesting because, well, like I said, like through osmosis of just listening to with my girl, a lot of stuff is like just they pre-program stuff and loop stuff. And it's interesting how more modern music uses some of that stuff, and the way they create some of the beats, and at times I'll find myself listening to something going, that's a really cool beat. I would never use that in a metal band, but if you come down and you start messing with it and you go, I can't really play this, right? And so you just start messing around with it, and then later on becomes a drum fill. You know what I mean? It's not the drum beat. It's like all of a sudden I'm like thinking about that one thing that I heard in that one song that has nothing to do with metal, and then it makes my hands move a certain way, and it just kind of like what I do doesn't sound anything like what it was, but it's all about the phrasing, and then
right.
So it's kind of interesting, like, so that kind of stuff. And been listening to like I said, a lot of the current projects I'm working on. I'm working on a project with a band called Border Wars, and these guys I think they had one record. They did, I think maybe did two, but they're Bay Area guys, and they kind of hit me up and they sent me some music, and I was just like, wow. Like, I mean, like super impressed. Like the guitar player is like just amazing. And it's not like quote unquote Bay Area thrash. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because it's, I mean, it's great to play thrash, but it's also nice to still play in the heavy genre and maybe step outside of, for instance, thrash. Like what everybody knows me for thrash metal, right? So
Right.
it's nice to do something like, where it's more complex bass drum patterns in this, which I'm not necessarily known for. And also like some blast stuff. It's not heavy on blast, but it does blast. And there's it really kind of pushing the envelope of speed in terms of, like, live I play super fast. Like, I had a drum tech, for instance, like put a metronome on me, while I was playing in tap behind my riser. And he's like, he would say, I'd always, like, backstage, I'm always warming up on an electronic kit when I can, when the situation allows me to. Which with the last Slayer tour, I was able to do that kind of stuff, which I'm very fortunate for. But so I would try to push the beats per minute with 16th note patterns and stuff, because modern drummers, like a lot of modern kids, like drummers, they're doing phenomenal shit, like, dick in the dirt kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
I remember the first time sitting behind Joey Jordison, right? And just watching that dude play, I'm like, I'm slow. You know what I mean? That dude was so fast. And I'm like, so I challenged myself to get faster, and it just, I'm faster now, but I want to be able to capture how fast I am live, because I don't pay attention and I'm too fast sometimes live. But when, you know, when my tech has when I'm playing Angel of Death, right? And I'm thinking, you know, I'm struggling, and he's like, you know, you're playing like that song at about 195, almost 200 at times. And I'm like, I can't even, in backstage, if I try to hit 200 with a metronome on the electronic kit, I can't do it. But when you plug in an amplifier and all of a sudden it's go time, you know, something else happens. So it's like, it's that thing where this new project is kind of pushing that, right? But I'll be able to record it that way, you know? So in the studio, it's kind of one of those things, like Abomination, like for instance, I have Abomination Exodus. I think that was about 190 beats per minute or something like that.
Yep.
Fast. That was pretty fast at the time for me, because at the time, like, I hadn't really been working with a metronome at all. So that was like, to do that song in the studio, it was a bit of a struggle, to be honest, you know. But, the end result was great, because it's a great song, you know what I mean? But, yeah, so no, this new band, like, it's kind of challenging me in a lot of ways, and the songwriting is really good. So it's kind of one of those things where it's like, you know, I got 2 projects finished, so, you know, that's good. And then this other one's coming out, and then, see what comes up next. So.
Right on. So I got a question for you. What was the worst show you ever played?
That's a good question. Okay, the worst. Okay. All right. So okay, let's break it down by classification. Worst show I ever played as a drummer, or the worst I ever felt playing at a show.
I'm gonna say the worst. Like one of those, you know, those moments where just nothing goes right. You know what I mean? And as far as like the crowd and the atmosphere and the day and everything, do you remember the worst one?
Yeah, I actually do. It was in Austria. And you'll remember this. I was with Exodus, and Lee and we had a ferry crossing the day before the show, right? So I got back to the bus with Lee, and me and Lee sat down, and that's when I was drinking JD. I don't drink JD anymore. Not a good thing, and you know why. I just don't. So me and Lee were sitting down at the table, and and he's like, come on, Bostaph, we're gonna get to the bottom of this. And like, he wanted to talk about the next record. I'm like, okay, we'll sit down, and because we had plenty of time. So we're having some JD, right? A few shots, and then the bus takes off, and I think Hypocrisy was following us. And
yeah,
we stopped on Hypocrisy's bus. We stopped at a Burger King, and you'll remember this because I ate my hamburger without taking the wrapper off of it. I don't know if you remember that. Okay, but you're the one that told me I did, because I don't remember it. But I was so hungry. I'm like, I remember going, I'm not necessarily sure I did take the wrapper off it, but it was good, right? But so, I'll fast forward. So the buses started taking off, and I already knew it was time for me to go to bed. I'm like, it's time to go to bed. So I got off of Hypocrisy's bus just as it started rolling and ran up to our bus and got on before the door closed. And I'm like, fuck yeah, everybody's on the other bus. I'm going to bed. So I take my shoes off, and I go to climb in my bunk, and a hand grabs my fucking, my ankle and goes, come on, Bostaph, we're getting to the bottom of this. It was Lee. He followed me out of the bus onto our bus, and he's like, we're going to get to the bottom of this. And he wanted to drink still. I'm like, okay. I'm like, dude, I'm going to bed. I'm drunk. We got a show tomorrow. I'm like, I can't do it. And so Lee's like, come on, dude. Lee's very persuasive. So I'm like, okay, dude, I'll have some drinks with you, but I'm going to have one beer and I'm going to bed. I've never seen one beer last longer in my entire life. Like, one beer, and like Lee and I remember Lee and I were up, and it was it was daylight outside. And I remember Gary poking his head out of his bunk because we were just, I guess we were loud. And I have to apologize to you and everybody else because like, I'm like, yeah, we were loud and, you know, I slept with earplugs in, but I'll fast forward. Well, Lee and I drank till we passed out. And then, you know, we were in our bunks. Next afternoon, I get up. It's like 3:30 in the afternoon, and sound check for us was about 4 or something like that. And I remember going into the building, and everybody was getting ready to sound check. And I remember, like, I can hear everybody talking about whether I'm showing up for sound check or not. And I felt like I got a donkey punched in the head. You know, it was just like so bad. So I tossed my bag on the stage, and we sound check and everything. And I don't know how I physically made it through that show because I think I pushed the envelope of like how much a human being can drink. I was so hungover. I got off stage, you know, I hadn't eaten dinner yet, and I ate dinner when we got off stage. I was so hungover that while I was eating, I was having soup or something to eat. I don't know what we had for dinner that night. I was eating in the dressing room, and my hand was shaking. I'm just like, fuck, my hands never shake. And that's how, it was like, I didn't tank the show, but I certainly probably didn't bring my best that night at all, you know? And I think it was that moment. It was because Joey, our tour manager, said to me, he's like, I told everybody, like, you know, I'm done doing shots. I'm done. Because just that experience of eating my food like that, I'm like, this is not physically good. This cannot be a consistent thing. So I'm like, I'm done drinking shots. I'm done. I'm not doing it for the rest of the tour. Joey bet me €20, you know, but I wanted to bet him 150 because I'm like, I know I'm not going to drink because based on how I felt that night, I'm like, I'm not touching another drop of this shit at all. So that would probably be the worst live because any other time than that, if it wasn't affected by, I hate to say this, but if it wasn't affected by a hangover, I didn't really have super bad shows, unless of course it was like I had one show with Slayer where I hadn't been playing drums that much. This was like on Divine Intervention era, so I hadn't been playing drums too much, and a tour got dropped on us like 2 weeks before we had to leave. So I remember playing that show, and I haven't dropped more sticks in my entire life because my hands weren't like up to snuff. And so I'm playing pretty good. I'm pushing through it though, not like you know, you shouldn't have to push through it like you know, as a feat of survival or an act of survival, that's exactly what it was. I wasn't in the physical place I should be. So as I'm playing, sticks are flying out of my hand because, like, you know, the muscles that are responsible for gripping the sticks weren't doing their job. So yeah, I would say that would be physically probably the worst, physically in terms of like not being ready for it and sticks flying out of my hands. Which, by the way, sticks flying out of the hands, Mickey D really made a great. You remember Mickey D's drum solo he did live with Motorhead?
Yeah.
He might still do it. So he does this thing at the solo where he speeds up the solo at the end, and he'll take sticks, he'll toss them up behind him against the backdrop, so they flip up. It looks really cool. So Mickey did that. He did that because he was doing a drum solo, and he was having that problem that I was describing to you. He was having a problem hanging out of the sticks. And so a drumstick kept flying out of his hand, and he got pissed. So at the end of his solo, he took all the sticks out of his bag, and he was mad. He started tossing them back. And I guess somebody told him it looked really cool, so he kept doing it. So in long form, that's my answer to your question.
All right. So I heard Roll Over Beethoven the other day, and it made you pop in my head because I know what a big ELO fan you were. I was driving somewhere listening to classic rock radio, and that came on, and I went, fucking Paul Bostaph, because you love ELO, and I'll never forget me and you having this fucking 2-hour conversation one night about how great
the drummer was from ELO. And yeah, we were in Europe going somewhere, and we had this conversation on, and I'll never forget it. It was anyway.
Yeah, you're actually still my favorite band. It's like I have to like I've taken a bit of a step back from listening to them too much because I burn out on them because I listen to them.
Yeah.
Like if I'm working on something or doing something, they're in the background. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
Funny because now like because I had to replace that. They're still my favorite band, but I had to replace that with something else, and because I did, I realized that Boston was my second favorite band. Growing up, I never realized that, and it took me taking a break from Electric Light Orchestra, and then I had to listen to something else. And well, man, I had to listen to Boston forever. I'm like, those were the two bands when I used to play drums when I was just a little kid. I'd play drums in those bands. I didn't
Right on.
realize Boston was one of them.
All right, man. Well, listen, I'm gonna let you go because I wanna when we're together over in Milwaukee Metal Fest, I'd like to sit down and do a little more in-depth conversation about your career. This one, it's probably just a short one, just for the Milwaukee Metal Fest, which, I mean, I know we're gonna have fun, dude. But I'd like to sit down with you more and talk more about your upbringing and how, in your entire life, and doing a little more long form extended conversation. So I'm gonna let you go. I thank you for doing this, man. Jamie, thanks you. We're gonna have a lot of fun over the weekend, and I look forward to hopefully playing with you. I don't know if we are or not. Well, I guess we'll find out when we get there. But anyway, good talking to you. Good seeing you again, bud. And I will, I'll talk to you at the end. I think it's the 26th, 27th, 28th, but I'll be there the night before. And I look forward to seeing you, buddy.
Yeah, you too, Rob. Right on, dude.